What's up, my heroes and villains, my players and my professionals? This is Violence Enthusiast coming at you with a video today. It's going to be another one of my MythBeater videos. This one is going to be on sparring. It's less of a MythBeater and more of just a search for the truth overall. Because there's a lot of different perspectives on sparring out there. I'm going to try to talk a little about all of them and give you what I believe is the overall truth from them all. And I'll try to be as objective as possible. So let's just jump right into it. The first perspective I'm going to talk about is from the full contact guys, reality-based self-defense combatives people and MMA fighters who believe that sparring should be full contact, full clip, aggression, at least once a week or twice a week, but often as you can with no quarter given or little quarter given. They believe that if you aren't sparring, then you can't fight because you won't learn how to deal with stress. You won't learn how to deal with dynamic techniques you don't know are coming. You won't know how to apply your techniques under stress. You won't get used to making them work in different scenarios. So that's that perspective. The other perspective will be pretty much the opposite, which is the non-contact martial arts and martial artists who believe that sparring is bad because it's just too dangerous to spar full contact. They believe also that sparring full contact with also aggression and stuff, it breeds negative coping habits with aggression because you're not giving progressive steps towards it. So you'll just develop bad habits of dealing with it, and you'll develop bad technique consequently because you don't have a chance to perfectly apply your techniques in scenarios so that you can learn how in imperfect scenarios you can apply them perfectly. They believe that the progression is bad, and so sparring just is kind of useless. You stick to your forms and your drills. Then there's a third group, which is sort of similar. They believe the same things, but believe there's more validity to sparring, but full contact is just a no. So they do light contact sparring, or they'll do shadow sparring, no contact sparring. Now, in my opinion, there's a lot of truth to be found here in all of these. I'll start with the anti-sparring groups. If you do not progressively learn how to deal with aggression, you don't progressively learn how to deal with an imperfect scenario, you will develop a lot of bad habits. Because I've seen a lot of fighters who will throw a punch and they'll try to do all these things to avoid being hit, and they'll flinch and half the time have their eyes closed because they just got thrown into sparring early and got beat up a lot and had to flail around and fight their way through it and figure out what they could possibly do. That happens. That's true. And it causes bad techniques. It causes flinching. It causes jab flinching, stuff like that. And it causes bad technique in that people try to overswing to get this conflict over with. They try to just be aggressive back and put as much muscle into their attacks as they can, instead of just using proper technique and not letting the power be generated that way. That's all true. However, sparring is still a necessity, or it should be a necessity. It should be something that you have. Because if you do drills, as those people will say, you'll be able to get most of what you can get in sparring. You'll be able to learn how to properly demonstrate power against a person and how to defend it if you have attacker-defender drills. You'll learn the killer instinct mindset in those drills because you can safely try to hit the person really hard because they know it's coming, so even if they don't defend it properly, they can still absorb the force better knowing what's coming. So you can learn all that. But there's still stuff to be learned in sparring. For example, learning how to put out force and how to receive force that you don't know is coming that's something you can't really get from drills. If you have drills like that, you're basically just doing sparring. If you have okay, we're gonna do 5 punches and it's in 5 random punches, that's still sparring, it's just a shorter version. So that's a cop out. But you do need that element, you know? And you can get by without it, but when you get into a conflict, you're gonna be worse for wear because you haven't had skill dealing with that. The only way you will survive is you know, based on what it looks like they're doing, how to read it. And you can get that from repetitive drills. But knowing how to actually deal with what you're reading is a different story. So is sparring 100% necessary? No, but it's 98%. Now, going to the hard-nosers, their way of doing it, you can't spar full contact all the time. You're just going to get hurt, and you're going to have sloppy technique. Because if that's how your mindset is, you're probably not focusing enough on drills and stuff, and you're probably going to screw yourselves over. Because if you feel like it's that important, likely that usually comes with someone throwing people in sparring drill. Now, if you do your proper drills, you do all the leg work and all that it's better. But the other issue is sparring equipment throws off all your technique. If you wear shin guards, you won't know how to kick properly because you don't have a shin anymore. You have a big pad. You have a leg. Boxing gloves, now you have fists instead of knuckles. You know? Not to mention your receiving force with these things, so you have a lot more leeway and you can develop bad habits because if you get kicked in the leg with shin guards on, it's not as bad as without. So you'll get used to taking these leg kicks, then when someone hits you with a bare shin, it's going to drop you. Same with defending with boxing gloves. This doesn't work without gloves. You know, that sort of stuff. And then there's the whole stress management thing. If you don't build up to it, I believe sparring should be up to full contact and down to bare contact. It should be leveled out during the actual spar based on what your opponent needs. If you're beating the crap out of him, don't keep beating the crap out of him. Ease up. Let him come out of his shell. Let him throw some punches so you and him can. You know? And the mindset, the killer instinct mindset leads to a lot of gym injuries and it leads to sucker punches because when you're trying to kill a guy in the bell rings, you might want to get him one more punch because you're in that mindset. That's not safe. Sparring should not be about the mindset of killer instinct, but it should be about the action of killer instinct. Teach your partner to deal with what it's like when someone's trying to kill them, but understand that you're not trying to kill them so you can keep them safe. You develop your personal killer instinct when you're trying to do drills on somebody because they know what you're going to do. So when you try to punch them and you do it too fast, at least if you hit them, they'll know how to deal with it better. You know, that's where you develop that for yourself. And that's where they develop killer defense instinct as well because you're both trying to not get hit. But that's not for sparring, that's misplaced value. Moving on from that, the final thing is, shadow sparring or light contact sparring. It's good, but it's just not as good as variable full contact down sparring. Because with the snaps of light contact, you can learn to be used to that. And if you try to do that in a self-defense scenario, your punches won't do anything. It just won't be effective. Your kicks won't either. Now, you can mitigate that sort of retraining by doing a lot of drills and then doing light sparring. But even then, it's just better to do more harder contact sparring. But if you're someone who's not going to be in an action career, like you're not a bodyguard or, not a bouncer or anything like that, you don't want to get your face messed up, then that is a viable alternative. But it's just not the best thing. But if you're not a fighter or someone who's in danger constantly, then you kind of can gauge whether you want to be more safe or whether you want to have higher skill. Because if it's just a hobby, you don't need to get yourself working up for it, So that's pretty much my opinion on all of that. As far as what I personally do, another thing I believe, if I make this clear, I am anti-padding. I just am anti-padding. No defensive play. Me, I spar bare knuckle, bare body completely. Full contact, one down, based on what moves I'm trying to do or where my opponent is at. I'm not going to grab him and pull him into an elbow full contact, but I'm going to pull him into and hit him with it so he knows what that's like. And I'm going to drive through. I'm going to perform all my techniques, which is what I should say, not full contact, but full intent. My techniques will be done completely at a reasonable speed. So I will throw a right cross at your face, and I'm not just going to touch you. I'm not just going to touch you and then push you. I'm going to hit and drive through, but at the minimum speed where I can properly do a technique and get the drive through and all that without destroying you. So that's how I do it. And yes, I do punch to the face with these bare knuckles. I do chops to the neck, strikes to the throat, to the back of the head, all that. But I'm just fine because I train smart. People, when I train them, because I don't go to a gym right now. I do more private lessons and train people I know. They're not worse for the wear either. So that's how I do things. That's what I advocate. Because I don't like wearing padding. It messes up distance as well as your technique because you have 3 more inches of reach with boxing glove, You don't have another 1.5 inches of foam so your kick can be here instead of here, stuff like that. But this is going to get repetitive, so I'm going to pretty much wrap this up. My things on sparring, your intent matters based on what you're doing. You should spar with higher contact. If you want to spar at lower contact, then do it to be safe. You have to have some sparring because you just will miss out on certain things, but it's not an absolute must, but it is better. Don't just spar full contact. You'll mess up your technique. You'll develop bad habits. Spar with full intent, spar without pads. But that's it. So this is the Violence Enthusiast signing off. If you like this video, like it. If you don't, if you didn't enjoy it, don't dislike it. You don't need to do that. I don't want a bunch of dislikes on the videos, please. Comment to me what was wrong with what I said. Tell me off. You don't have to be nice, but teach me. Let me learn from you. And if I counter what you say, I hope you learn from me too. If you liked what I had to say but have counterpoints or something, same process. If you liked everything I had to say in the comments, hey, I agree with you, I like what you're saying, say hi, I want to talk with you, I want to meet you guys, I want to know your experiences. Subscribe if you want to see more of me, whether you like me or not, follow me and talk shit about me the whole way, support me the whole way. Just communicate with me, let's go learn together, let's enthuse about violence together. But this is the Violence Enthusiast. I'm signing off now, guys. See you. Also, I will have a Facebook soon. Do the same thing on Facebook. Okay, bye.